Hi, and welcome to KCRep's Thursday Night Mixer. Thanks for joining us, those that have joined us. I'm Stuart Carden, KCRep's Artistic Director, and we're really thrilled that you're joining us tonight. I'm going to introduce our guests tonight for those that have been joining us previously in just a moment. But before we get into the conversation, the creative conversation and engaging with our guests, who you'll probably see their names right here, to build the anticipation. I want to share something from KCRep about something that's really meaningful to, I think, a lot of us in the theater community. For those that aren't intimately involved with the theater community, this might be a little inside baseball for a moment, but we at KCRep just wanted to speak to something first before we jump into this live mixer. So there were some comments made in the community about some specific members of our artistic community in a producers group. And I just want to take a second and share the following, which is that we at KCRep, and I, Stuart Carden, the artistic director, believe that individual artists are the heart of the KC theater community. And we believe that that community, all voices and perspectives in that community should be a part of the conversation. And we stand against any actions that may be deemed as an attempt to quiet the concerns and voices of the artistic community. The comments made about individual artists in no way are going to impact the hiring of those individuals at KCRep, our relationship with them, our perspective and appreciation of them, nor will any other artists that speak up with genuine concerns related to our entire theater community, will they be viewed negatively. And I just want to say it's going to take all of us working together with thoughtfulness and generosity to navigate this highly stressful moment. And want to say that we stand by each artist in this community right to speak to their concerns for their fellow artistic community members and the larger KC community. So I just wanted to take a moment, and for those that don't know what's going on with that, forgive me that might be a little insider baseball, but I wanted to use this platform and setting to speak to something that is quite important to the larger theater community and is going on right now. So with that, we're going to transition now to invite our guests in. And Jen Spa, who is always working behind the scenes to make this go smoothly, is going to activation Chioma, and there's Damron, and are we going to get Amy? Oh, there's success. So welcome. Thank you for pausing for a second while I share that. But welcome to KCRep's Thursday Night Mixer. This week's guests, many of you that engage with KCRep regularly are going to know these artists very, very well. This week's guests include actor and founding artistic director of Kansas City Black Repertory Theater, Damron Armstrong.
Hello.
Actor Chioma Anyanwu. Yes? Help me.
Perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
Yes, Chioma Anyanwu. And the general manager of KCRep, Amy Abels Owen. Thank you guys so much for joining us at KCRep for a bit of creative conversation. And the best part is it's so good to see fellow artists' faces and be able to, as someone new to this community, be able to use this unusual setting for us as a way to get to know people better in this community. So thanks for joining us. I told you before we went live that this would be the awkward part, which I'm going to thank our sponsors first. Meanwhile, if you haven't unwrapped your cocktail kit, this might be a good time to start unwrapping your cocktail kit. And I want to highlight this amazing partnership that we have for our Thursday night mixer. This week's cocktail kit is the top seller from our official Thursday night mixer sponsor, which is really cool that we have one, from Lifted Spirits Distillery. And this is a cosmopolitan in a style that I've never had before. And so the way this night's going to work is we're going to mix this cocktail that was provided by Lifted Spirits in this cocktail kit. And I hope some of you all got one as well, purchased one, and are mixing along with us. And then after we mix, then we're going to engage in a little creative conversation. Then we're going to open things up for any questions and comments from you. And then we're going to wrap up with a final question. But thrilled that you're with us tonight. And shall we start mixing, my friend?
Oh, yeah.
Shall we start mixing?
Oh yeah, let's get the ball rolling.
Who's a Cosmo regular?
Not really. Not really.
Not so much. It's a little on the sweet side. If anybody knows me, they know I'm a Jameson man. And so anything that is slightly candy is not my jam. But
Damron
showed up at my door and it's free.
Damron introduced me to a gin and tonic years and years and years ago, and that's one of my favorites.
But
I don't do Cosmos or Cosmopolitans very often. Do they typically have a lime wedge? I don't know. I
don't have them that often.
Yeah.
I like them, but I don't have them that often.
if I remember correctly from Bar Natasha back in the day, it was a lemon twist that garnished it, and you rim the glass with it as well.
Like a zest?
Yes.
So this I'm going to follow these instructions. You may be a little looser than me, but we start with 1.5 ounces of Lifted Spirits vodka. Let's hear that sound. So did I say 1.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1.5.
1.5. Pouring. Okay. Next, what do we have next? Amy, do you have it?
1.75 ounces of our juice mix. That's cranberry juice, lime juice, and simple syrup.
Excellent. It smells amazing. 1.75 ounces.
And then 5 ounces of the Cointreau.
I'm questioning my measuring skills already. This looks kind of heavy, like a heavy pour, I think. I wonder if I got my metrics.
I did.
Well, I went heavy on the vodka, light on the fruit juice.
Yeah. On the juice.
Next is the Cointreau. And is that how you say it? Cointreau?
Cointreau.
Cointreau. You put a little Cointreau.
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 0.5 ounces. This series has introduced me to so many delightful drinks. I missed it last week. I was in Kentucky and did not have it shipped to me visiting family. And so I missed out last week on last week's drink. So I'm excited about this one. Great. And then what do we do?
Shake
and serve over ice.
I'm stirring. I've already made a mistake. I'm stirring mine.
Well, this recipe that says over ice is the odd one because Cosmos are usually served, it's a martini.
Right.
Martini glass.
Yeah.
What glassware did you all go for?
I went for a good old paper cup. I was gonna do my favorite mason jar, but I already had water in it.
I'm gonna go with my alcohol glass, which lists various different recipes on it. Whiskey sour, sidecar, mojito.
Amy, how about you?
From a set we got for Christmas, I picked the naughty one instead of the nice one.
I love it. Oh, and the garnish.
For every time.
And the garnish, a lime garnish for those that are doing it.
There it is.
Hello, friends. Thank you so much for joining us for this. It's really good to see you. And cheers.
Cheers.
Na zdrowie.
See, it's not sweet. Well, at least my balance is not sweet. That is good.
Yes, I think I put in just the right amount of Cointreau.
Amy?
Like, it's like spring, summer. It can't decide.
It's really good. I mean, the cranberry is pretty. I don't think I've ever had a Cosmo like this where you could really taste the cranberry. I typically just taste sweetness. This is really good.
Your heavy pour turned out well.
Thanks for mixing. And really thrilled to be able to spend a little bit of time with you and engage in some creative conversation. And this group, as I was thinking about what we might talk about, you all have long histories with KCRep. I'm new to KCRep. And one of the things that I would love to talk about is your history with the theater and the shows you've been a part of and how it intersected with your career development and path, KCRep. I personally would like to know that, and I'm sure those that have been around and seen you all on stage many times and in the community, that they will take a little trip with us and hear a little bit about some of the projects that you worked on and some of the favorites and highlights of that time. So can we start there? Does that sound good? Yeah. Can I start with you, Damron, to share a little bit about, okay, I want to name this. So what was your first project or engagement with KCRep?
The first one would have been under George Keithley. Keithley? Yes. Who was also the director of Antigone, starring, is Mindy the educational director?
Yeah, director of education, yes. Those words in a slightly different order.
For a very, very, very long time. Mindy was in that, so was Mark Robbins and Gary Neal Johnson. And I was, second spear carrier to the left. But what a great education. It was like being in an MFA program, watching these performers, Ted Sweats, wow. Just an amazing group of people. So, and that was sort of a norm for me growing up in Kansas City, that most every theater that I worked at as a teenager, that was sort of the atmosphere, that it was a safe place to make choices. And I think that kind of put me on the trajectory that I took. But yeah.
I want to get if it's okay, I want to get back with a couple of follow-ups, but I think it'll be fun to do this first project around the room. So Chioma, how about for you?
My first experience with the Rep was actually my last year of grad school, and that was the 2017-2018 season. And I did Christmas Carol was the first production that I had done, and I had seen Christmas Carol, but I didn't know the scale of what goes on backstage to have that production happen. So that was really cool to see that and just see, that a lot of the magic takes place backstage, and the audience doesn't get to see that part. So that was really cool. And then later on, the second semester of my final year, I got to do another production with them as a student. I did Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, and that was directed by Marissa. And it was one of the most incredible experiences that I've ever had in a production. The movement and creating together and the devising. I didn't know what devising was until I got into grad school. And so when we did that, it was like just basically an entire production of that. And I had never experienced something like that before. That's another show that I'm like, if I could revisit that one day.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to revisit that one day.
Amy, you have done many things in theater. You're now the general manager among many other things that you do, but your position at KCRep is general manager. How about for you? What was the first project or engagement or way that you came to intersect with KCRep?
I'm going to start off with a question for Damron. What year was Antigone?
Ooh, good Lord.
So here's why I asked.
1900 and
The very, okay, I have an MFA in stage management from UMKC, and I was in grad school from 96 to 99. And when I interviewed, I saw a Greek show, but I swear I can't remember one. But it was Antigone, what a bananas situation that would be, right?
Right.
I just can't remember which one it was. So I served as a PA on Oleana and Later Life while I was in grad school, and that was while George Keithley was artistic director, and I know he directed one of them. And I worked with Jim Mitchell when he was stage managing, and he's one of my mentors that I look to. I just admire him so much. And after grad school, I met my husband, who's been the shop foreman at KCRep since 2000, and I was the resident equity stage manager at the Coterie Theater from 2000 until 2013. And I came to KCRep as the executive assistant to the executive director and the education associate. I was selling tickets to the student matinees, and that transitioned into management associate, and that transitioned into associate general manager, and then it transitioned into general manager. So
come on, girl.
Transitions. So I can't wait until I get all these references. You're naming people, and I'm still so new that I'm like, another name. I do know the previous artistic director, and I do know a few of the actors' names that you referenced, but I genuinely can't wait. The only community that I have that kind of depth of history with is actually even more than Chicago, which I was there for a very long time. I have an even kind of deeper history. Someone just posted Antigone was 95, 96 season. Boom! Thank you, whoever shared that.
Karen Meek, she was in the stage management class ahead of me, and she's the one that took me around on the tour. So yeah. Then I saw you when I was interviewing for grad school.
Wow.
So the only other community is Pittsburgh, and that I have that kind of history with, where I really feel like, and plus the size of that city is kind of similar to Kansas City, and I'm really looking forward to the moment in the future where I feel like I have a real sense of the fabric of this community. I'm at the point right now where I'm getting to know people individually and getting to know the overall culture and spirit of this city. But one of the reasons I was really attracted to this job was the scale of this city and the theater's position in relationship to the city, and the idea that you can genuinely know, with time and with effort, you can genuinely know in a real way the full artistic community. And I'm looking forward to that moment in the future.
Is the art in Pittsburgh?
No, that's in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh is the Carnegie Mellon University, which is where I went to grad school, and how I then started to work in Pittsburgh. But the Pittsburgh Public, which is a great theater, City Theater, which is a new play theater, which I worked with for a long time. They have this amazing site-specific company called Quantum that I've seen shows of theirs that take place with the audience around the rim of an empty pool. So all the action happened in the pool and the audience sat around the side in an abandoned steel factory, like in a graveyard. Indian Ink by Tom Stoppard in a graveyard. That company is amazing. But it's a,
still do that?
They still do, yeah. No, it's an amazing site-specific theater company run by Carla Boos, who's run it for many, many years. So I have that kind of history. I'm anticipating the moment where that clicks here. So this past season, Damron was on our stages at KCRep, and Chioma was on our stages 1.5 times. Because Damron was with us, for those that saw Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Reverend.
Gone.
Good. Then I don't feel as bad.
The show closes.
Took her.
It's gone. Until the next
Reverend Tooker.
Tooker?
Is that right?
Yes, Reverend Tooker.
Yeah. Again, Jen or Facebook help me out.
Reverend Tooker.
And then Chioma, for Color Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Was Enough, which was a really extraordinary. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof was extraordinary. I mean, I was blown away. I came here on September 3rd, and I don't know if you remember this, Damron, but like my third day, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof was in previews, and I came and introduced myself at that moment, and I was just so blown away by the quality of that production and the performances, and it really solidified for me I'm so thankful.
Yeah, you had Nathan and Vanessa at the helm of the whole thing. The rest of us could have just stunk up the stage, but the two of them, it was fantastic being a part of such an ensemble that were just amazing. Again, an MFA workshop of how a play should come together.
Yeah, and the next show was for me in my first season was for Color Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough, which Chioma, you were in, which was also an extraordinary production with a phenomenal cast of KC artists and also some artists from particularly New York and Chicago.
Yeah, we had, I think, 2 from Chicago, 1 from Minneapolis. I think Ashe was from Minneapolis.
Right.
Yeah. And I think there were three girls from out of town and 4 from here. And
that was in the fall. And then I'm going to jump to your 1.5, which for those of you out there who don't know, Noises Off, in addition to Frankenstein closing on its opening and Stacey Rose's, Kyle Hatley's Frankenstein, A Ghost Story, and Stacey Rose's phenomenal, both of them are not phenomenal, Stacey Rose's phenomenal Legacyland being canceled on their opening nights. We were 3 weeks.
We were at the end of the second week.
End of the second week of rehearsals for Noises Off, directed by Jose Zayas, who was the first time directing at KCRep, and an all Kansas City cast, phenomenal group of actors, but also comedic actors in that production. And so end of the second week, and I remember walking in to share the news with all of you all. And has anything, I know the pandemic hasn't happened like that for you, Chioma, but has anything happened like that anywhere in the realm of a show in process like that you've had to stop the process. And what was that experience like? And Damron or Amy, if you want to jump in, both from Amy, your perspective on that moment, or Damron, your perspective with your theater company, please do. But Chioma, what was that moment like for you? You've had some time to process it.
Yeah.
And has there been anything like it in your career?
No. I don't think I can say that I even had anything close to something like this. I mean, I've had situations where like this show has stopped. In fact, Damron and I have shared an experience when we did Ruined together, where we had one night where there was an emergency in the audience and it stopped. But they took care of the emergency and we finished the final scene. But this is, I mean, it's still in my head, it's still sort of surreal because I'm still imagining this alternate universe where we did the show and and it was fantastic. And, you know, we all got to know each other and, you know, we all are in different parts of our lives, still being able to go out without covering our faces. I'm still sort of imagining this alternative, like this alternate universe, because it's still hard for me to believe. I know it's happening, I'm following the rules, but I don't think that I can say that I've ever seen anything like this before. Never. I was at the gym one day and I was running and I saw on ESPN that they had like shut down NBA season and like the golf league was like down, and I was like, should I be here right now? And I just got off the elliptical and went home. I was like, something odd is in the air. And then all of this really started happening, and especially when all the theaters were closing down, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like, it was just really snowballing so fast. I've never seen anything like this. I mean, we are called to come together with what we do. So it's very strange to, even when we see each other, be nervous about having any kind of physical contact, when usually that's our first instinct when we see each other. So it's strange. It's very strange, and it's still strange to me.
Yeah. Damron or Amy?
I think much like Chi, it's like the blizzard of '82 in New York, and the whole city sort of shut down for a week, or flying to New York on 9/11 from Chicago, and then sort of.
That's your story?
Not understanding. Your brain just could not compute. I mean, it's the same with the pandemic, because, I mean, you see the number of people who are dying from this, so you know that it's real. But like she said, in an alternate universe, we're gonna have a season that opens September 7th. That's not happening.
No.
Yes.
That fight with reality is something. But yeah, I mean, those are the only examples I have of having something stop in the middle or before you even have a chance to sit down at the first read.
Yeah. Cognitive dissonance is something that maybe I have experienced, but not to this degree.
Yeah.
Where there's actual dissonance in different parts of your brain because of expectation of the way, not only just the everyday interactions, but as you say, Chioma, this striking at the heart of a fundamental human impulse to gather and to share stories and conversation, and then that striking at the heart of the philosophical why of theater, and it's so incredibly disruptive to just the way your brain thinks about purpose. You know, my purpose, besides being a dad, besides being a husband, besides being an active part of my community, my purpose is to tell stories in the theater, and to have that be like, you're not going to do that for a while.
Right.
Like, doesn't compute. It doesn't compute. Yeah. Amy, how about for you? You, in terms of your role, maybe whatever you want, general manager or as an artistic community member.
Interesting thing is, I keep thinking, working from home now feels like it should not be like I still feel like I'm in a tornado, right? But I still feel like I'm in a tornado. Everything for me is still happening really quickly. Yeah. And I have some major deadlines by tomorrow, right? And then like everything stops for me for a while, right? And so I've got all this anxiety building about making sure I meet these deadlines. And then what in the heck am I going to do after that? Because, things change. Yes. But from a few weeks before the shutdown, there was a small team of us who were connecting with our colleagues, connecting internally at the theater. What are our plans? What are our plans? And as you guys know, it was like every single day or every afternoon, the information was different or more drastic. And we couldn't keep up, right? And so then we transitioned to home and you think, oh gosh, I don't have to drive. I don't have to, and this will all be done. And who'd imagine this is 3 months now, right? Yeah. And it feels like at 3 months, we should have an easy pace. And it's not an easy pace still.
Yeah.
It's not.
That resonates for sure. And honestly, you all have led to this next question, which is, to be very honest, the kind of dream of the first year as an artistic director and partnering to create a first season is something that I've thought of helping lead other organizations, but the first time being an artistic director. I invested a lot of emotion, positive emotion around this first year, and then also the launch of the season for next year. And I've been turning a corner on mourning that, and I do respect and think that we've got to mourn what might have been. But I've started to turn a corner on, okay, that does not undercut your sense of values and purpose and vision in this moment. And nor has the pandemic prevented opportunity for things to advance and change for the better. And I've started to painfully, dissonantly shift towards where are the opportunities, where are the spaces where we can advance things that we have had in process, but now is the opportunity, either because you have more time and energy to focus on it, or because the moment is ripe with more possibilities to push further in certain areas. I wonder if for you all in this moment, both because of the pandemic of the virus and also this pandemic of violence that is happening in this country in terms of police brutality and Black lives and the reverberations of the protest and social justice movement and the anti-racist movement that has rippled incredibly throughout every strata of the nation, city, theater community. Where are you seeing in this moment opportunity and positive moments for change? Or I'll stop there. Is that a question? I think it's a question. Or are you seeing opportunities in this moment?
I'll go. I think this has created opportunities, particularly within KCRep, for relationships that would not have happened had it not been for the situation that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Teams that have been created because of projects, right? Or the way that we need to collaborate to get something done has required working and thinking differently. And some of the projects that we're on have put us in contact with people that we don't typically work with and see outside of really like a company meeting every couple months, right? And so we are getting to know each other as individuals, right? Sorry, I have a man cub in the background who just said, "That's pretty cool." It is pretty cool.
It is.
It is pretty cool. Yeah.
How about for others?
Well, I think this sort of platform that has been born out of pandemic has allowed many of us to be able to have some human contact, even through a machine. We at the Black Rep had a couple of fundraisers where I was able to bring on Black Rep alumni and just friends of mine from New York to LA, and of course those right here in Kansas City who were starving for some sort of performance outlet. And so to be able to utilize these sort of platforms, I think is going to change the face of how we move theater when we do come back. I don't think that we'll ever go back to the way it was before. And this sort of interaction, I think people will want to gravitate towards if they're frightened of coming back to theater. To be in the room, having this as an opportunity to still be able to engage live theater, I think is going to be a helpful tool. I think socially, all of the conversations that are of the day now, for me, I mean, it's sort of like seeing your dream imagined in real life. When I came back to Kansas City 6 years ago, you could not have told me that in that period of time, you would see, it would go from me explaining to people why there needs to be Black theater or why we need to understand the contributions that we make to each other's lives, to people marching all over the world to say, this group of people contributes. It's not in our history books, it's not in our everyday lives, but all of a sudden people are like, yes, I understand now. And I think that like this platform, this medium will only help put that story in the normal narrative.
I honestly, I mean, I don't even know how to add to that because it's like exactly what I was thinking. I mean, it's true. And especially being somebody who's not at all good with technology, it's kind of amazing to see what it can do. I've seen a lot more of my friends that are artists be able to like self-promote, and I get to see where they've grown as performers, whereas I haven't seen them in a long time. They're living in different places and now they're like self-recording or doing these live stream channels of them doing certain things. I know my classmates from my MFA class get together once a week and read a script on Zoom. They have like they read a Shakespeare script. I think one week there was a script from The Office that they read, you know, just to have fun and to keep, just to have fun and to like keep that interaction and just keep it light. But then they'll do Shakespeare. It's just like people throw things out there and they do them. And you look at this movement and how technology can springboard a movement. I mean, you look at this rally that happened and I don't even understand how, you know, K-pop fans and, you know, little Twitter people can, you know, do what they did. I have no idea. I think it's incredible, but I have no idea how that happens. It just shows you the power of these kinds of platforms right now. Even if you don't understand it, you know it has an effect. So that's what I'm excited to see where this goes. Even when everything can come back, I don't feel like this is gonna die out. I think it's just gonna advance.
First of all, little Twitter people.
That's how you know I don't know anything about technology.
No, I love it. I think I know what it means. Young Twitter people.
Oh, that was live.
Well, I mean, oh, sorry, Damron, go. Go.
Well, I think that's their official title. Really, that's the full name.
Little Twitter people.
I will speak to this too, but I'm interested in your all's perspective on this first, unless you tell me otherwise, which is how does this feel different, particularly around equity in the either larger national social structures or in the theater world? How does this feel different? And what gives you the sense, Chioma or anyone, that this is going to lead to a different type of change than some of the other moments where there has been a momentary recognition, particularly among the majority white community, of the systemic racism that is baked into our country? What I'm thinking about this a lot. I too, Chioma, feel like this does feel different, but another part of me is really in doubt, because we've had not the same moment before, but many similar moments. And I wonder if you might share, or any of you might share, does this feel different to you? And what do you think the next steps look like, either in theater or in the larger culture?
I will say, for me, at least in my personal experience, it already feels a little different. I still, of course, have my doubts, but it's different. It does feel different. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it's not like things similar to this haven't happened before. But it feels different to me because honestly, this is the first time in my life where I've gotten to say something to somebody about what they said to me that was offensive and why it's offensive, and have them not argue with me or blow me off or act like I'm being argumentative. This is the first time that's happened. And two of these people I left, with not being on good terms with them. And when, I noticed that, some Black squares had been posted and stuff, when they had said some really terrible things several times, and when we had known each other, I'd let them know that was not okay, and they blew me off, or they said I was being aggressive. And it was just one of those things where it was like, I feel like I can't even tell you when you're like, educate you on why that's not okay, because you don't want to hear that you might be saying something that's offensive. This is the first time where I was able to have a real conversation and have the person just listen to me. And I'm not asking for apologies. I don't need them. Unless you want to give them to me, then I'm happy to accept them. But there were apologies and there were no excuses made. And I actually felt like people were listening to me. For the first time, being, a Black girl growing up in Columbia, Missouri, to Nigerian immigrant parent, I felt like for the first time, people are actually starting to listen to me when I say, it's really not okay for you to say that. It feels different for me right now. you never, I only time will tell. But for right now, I'm glad that everybody's on board. It seems most people are on board, at least most people I know.
And I think people have awakened to the idea that the system itself is broken, that they inherited a system where classism and racism was built upon. And to say, I don't have to live in that type of world anymore. And I can look at my Black brothers and sisters and say, your life does matter. Because the flip of that, where all lives matter, then discounts the fact that these African Americans are being shot down in the street. If it was young white men that were being shot down in the streets or kneed up on, then we'd be the first ones to say white lives matter or all lives matter, interchanging the group of people that are being oppressed. And to understand that racism is a part of every layer of what this country has been built on, then you come to that understanding that, well, I don't have to be because the system is. And maybe that's what we're seeing also with people of all colors coming together and saying Black Lives Matter and protesting, is that perhaps they'll take that one step further in their voting, because you have the opportunity to make those changes and tear down the old guard and build the kind of the village you want to see yourself in. But, and as she was saying, I was like, yeah, there's a lot of noise now.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens when you go to change it. And if those same amount of people will show up and voice their opinion on a ballot. That's always the slippery slope, because we often sometimes forget the atrocities of the spring by the time we reach the fall.
That's powerfully said. And I think you're referencing voting, and the reference that you just made, Damron, that really resonates. Is the same true, I think, there's been a couple questions that have popped up that are prompting this segue, which is, I think the same is true with artistic leaders of predominantly white theater organizations, which is, let's see if the language of the moment and the pressure of the social moment is going to translate to those like me that have a leadership position at an organization like KCRep, regional theaters all over the country, not just me. If the actions, both immediate and long-term, are sustained. And people are beyond this time. I feel like people are beyond, let's see, but I think people are in a place of let's ask. And because of that, I think there's a different type of energy around both the opportunity of this movement for artistic leaders, a different type of energy, and also which leads to more opportunity, and also a different awakening that I recognize and am simultaneously both fired up about and hopeful for, and also terrified in terms of the sustaining of the energy of this moment. And honestly, the openness to have the conversation. But that's the starting point, is the openness of the conversation and centering a common perspective to then move into action. And that's going to be the question. There's been lots of talk around equity in the American theater for a long, long time. And there's been some advance in certain areas, but not enough and not fast enough. And the question is going to be, do people like me, who lead large arts organization, are we going to both continue to center our values around this and also use this moment of opportunity where some of the systems can be engaged in ways that even 4 months ago, they couldn't in the same way. I think is a really exciting question and crucial question. There was a question that was
actually like
a couple questions that related to that. So if that seemed like a slight tangent, sorry. There was a couple of questions that came through that were specifically about artistic directors like me, and what role and perspective on dismantling the systems of white supremacy in our organizations. What role do we have to play in it? And so addressing that a little bit. We've sort of transitioned to question time. Amy, maybe you want to step in though, you were going to share?
Yeah, so in the last year and a half, I've done a lot of work on identifying what my values are and defining those and trying to live by those. And I would say that my primal value is to be of service, right? And in being quite honest, in the whole situation around race, and I've never had to give any more thought than I'm sad that my friends of color have to have the conversations that they have with their kids, right? And I've not done anything beyond that, beyond being sad. And in this moment, I've realized that I've not done anything beyond being sad. And so trying to look at what my values are, right? How can I be of service? If that is what's most important to me, what can I do to be of service in addressing this issue? So I'm starting with educating myself, and I'm starting with educating my children. And they could tell you, I've already instituted, everybody's starting to read African-American stories this summer. We're all going to be starting to talk about African-American stories. I'm diving into African-American stories and trying to participate in book groups and other conversations, right? I'm trying to be open to conversations that are uncomfortable, because you don't get to anything better unless you go through something uncomfortable, right? That's the only way you grow. And I've not had to do nearly anything. As Chioma, I haven't had to live with situations with you like you have, where you've not been able to say to people, saying that's not acceptable, right? So that's where it starts, is with taking on the work that's uncomfortable and learning how to apologize, because people don't know how to apologize. Often an apology is like, I'm sorry you were offended, but that's not owning how you stepped out of line, right? Right. So I am starting with, how do I be of service? And how do I help my kids be aware of that whatever their values are, but to understand what my value is and what I think our values as a family should be, right? Okay. And then hopefully it grows from there.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, Amy. That's beautiful.
Sorry, Damron, what?
I said that's beautiful because there has to be an action item that you're going to do to say, this is how racism affects my life. And it's either, I don't have to worry about jogging in my neighborhood.
And I don't.
Right.
I don't.
But to come to that realization that somebody else exists that has to, that's white supremacy.
And privilege.
Yeah, privilege, exactly. Because you don't have to think about it doesn't mean that it does not exist.
Right.
So I think that's a very important step that folks have to come to. We are all affected by this.
I am angry at the clock.
Uh,
There's a question that I feel like that Darrington Clark, hello Darrington, if you're
Darrington.
asked such a great question, but we're gonna have to be speedy about it.
Okay.
And we may skip the what are you gonna eat, drink, and experience after this, just to get to this question. Have you learned anything about your artistic self through quarantine dealing with COVID? Have you learned anything about your artistic self? Was the first question that came up. We have not addressed it at all. Have you learned anything about your artistic self? Or an early question that came up, at least.
I'll be very quick.
Okay.
I have the heart of a stage manager, right? And I just said that my number one value is service. And when I finally figured that out, I was like, well, duh, right? And so I've never viewed that as being a leader, right? Because being of service isn't the person that's leading everybody through the things. And so this moment has shown me that being of service is being a leader.
Very nice, very concise. Bar and challenge.
What this time for me, of course, has been, trying to keep the theater afloat. But I once was a writer, and since the pandemic, I've had two play ideas that I'm now simultaneously working on, and that to me is the good that has come out of isolation.
Really profound and concise. Chioma?
I've learned that I don't know how to relax, and I need to learn how to relax. I have more time off than I know what to do with, and I'm not using it efficiently, and I'm not resting efficiently. So I need to learn how to do that. I need to learn how to relax.
Yes. I've learned so many things. But I'm going to go with a little in the Chioma camp, which is I have like the anxiety vessel.
Mm-hmm.
Just like right now, I'm learning I need to manage my anxiety. That I feel like there's a space in me for anxiety that as soon as I get past one thing, I just allow something else to take up the same volume.
Yep.
Things should have different levels of stress. They should.
Yes.
So I'm learning I need to do some work on thinking about how do I navigate the marathon without a finish of this, and especially around anxiety. That's not my creative self. It is my creative self, but not as beautiful as I wish I had shared, Darrington.
Please want to end with the traditional questions.
Okay, can we do it? We have like 1 minute to do it though. So 1 minute for what are you going to, when you're able to be out and social again, what are you going to eat, drink, and experience? Amy.
I'll go while you guys think. Okay, I want to eat at Berg & Barrel. It's a burger joint. They have amazing, wonderful, different kinds of burgers. I want to sit down for drinks with the KCRep leadership team and just enjoy drinks with the KCRep leadership team. And I want so desperately to take my family to a play. That's our thing. And take our family selfie before the play.
Damron.
That's me. Going to New York, gonna see a play, gonna have a turkey hoagie from Seven Brothers, corner 49th and 9th Avenue.
Where you drink?
Always Jameson.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I want a create your own bowl from Freestyle Poke. I want the third shift cocktail from the Mockingbird Lounge. And I want to go thrifting. That was my decompression time on Sundays. Even if I didn't buy anything, I just got to peruse just by myself with headphones in, and it was perfect. I don't have that right now.
So. I love that. That's my favorite.
I love it. Want to give a final shout out to Lifted Spirits. You can order cocktail kits online at liftedspirits.kc.square.site, and they're available for pickup, 1734 Cherry Street. So many thanks to them for hosting this and providing weekend cocktails for our guests. And please join us next week. Oh, final thing, you can use a coupon code 2KCRep for 10% off the cocktail kits, and you can mix along with us next week with next week's guests, which we'll share on social media later because we don't have enough time. But thank you so much to Damron and Chioma and Amy. I appreciate you all so much, and I'm really grateful to be a part of
Thanks, Stuart.
this community and getting to know you. So cheers.
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 Cheers. Cheers.
Amy, I love you.
And Jen, thank you.
Love you, Jen.
I love you guys.
Love you guys.